hobbyists. To celebrate making videos for a year, the RC So-and-So team decided to have a day out to Blackpool. Before package holidays were invented, British seaside towns had the monopoly on holiday goers, especially as some of the larger companies would shut down and provide a charabanc for the entire workforce to go en masse to a destination. I'm not sure if people used to get on better with their work colleagues, or if this is the real reason why British people drink so much on holiday, as it's a habit formed from back in the day because there's no break from Cyril in accounts. We decided we would do a tour of the Golden Mile and see what Blackpool Pleasure Beach has to offer, starting off from the south just before the South Pier, and obviously avoiding Trams. As we've not had to deal with this type of hazard before, we set off on our promenade. The Griswolds in National Lampoon's European Vacation stayed in the Royal Imperial Windsor Arms Hotel. I can only guess that this is a sister branch, and I imagine it would look very similar on the inside. A lot of this area has multiple guest houses. Staying in one of these is like staying on the Strip in Las Vegas. But dial the glamour, service and luxury back quite a few notches. Blackpool's landladies have a fierce reputation, as they would dictate what time you would need to be back by and what time that you are allowed to have your breakfast at. But I can only imagine in this age of travel lodges and that one that Lenny Henry advertises, I would hope that they have relaxed some of the rules. They should be a little bit more welcoming rather than seeing guests as the downside of running a guest house. It has to be said though that this works both ways, as Blackpool does get visitors that are rougher than the guests at Her Majesty's Prison, Wandsworth. It attracts stag and hen parties, and some people feel that after 20 pints of blood-warm bitter that they should start a fight. Again, that might be an echo from going on holiday with Cyril from accounts. The trip from the South Pier to the Central Pier had been quite quiet, and apart from the occasional jogger trying to run away from the inevitability of ageing, the prom was our own. The Beetle glided along the path with ease, and the torque-tuned motor meant that it was agile and responsive. It did create a lot of attention, as some of the so-called exercisers nearly gave themselves whiplash from the double takes. It started getting busier from here on in, and there were more businesses to see from this point. All tiers of tat were catered to. It did look like there were some victims of the economy, but most of the prime locations were open and ready for business. We did have to pause for a moment because of the street scene team, as we didn't want the Beetle to be sucked into a novelty council vehicle, but it was good to see how much effort goes into keeping the streets clean. There was an ample supply of bins that we passed, so any litter must have been dropped by visitors whose parents failed to bring them up correctly. The distance from the central pier to the north pier was not that far, and it of course meant that we would be able to go past the tower. We couldn't go into the tower, as long-term sufferer of the channel, Mrs. RC So-and-so, said that if I went into the tower ballroom without her, then there was no point in going home. And frankly, all my stuff is at home, so we didn't visit the tower. The Tamiya Beetle rally did cut a dash all the way along the prom, and it was nice to see the vehicle drive. I will have to change the height of the shell, as I feel that it was a little low. Again, the torque-tuned motor was used, and it ran just on normal overland and NIM batteries, so we didn't even have to change it. We did, however, have an issue with the GoPro battery. So by the time we got to the top of the North Pier, some of the local colour had also washed up, and there was a guy who was breakfasting on Alco Pops, and he was very insistent that we drove over his jumper with one of the cars. It takes all sorts, I guess, but unfortunately at this stage the battery in the GoPro had died. The distance that was covered was just under 3 miles. Luckily, trams are not as much of an issue that Coronation Street would have you believe they are. To sum up, buy a Tamiya Beetle Rally. They are great, and I like the MF-01X chassis. Also, if you get the chance, visit Blackpool. I'm sure the weather is like this every day. That being said, feel free to comment below on any suggestions on where would make a good tour by RC, and maybe it will be added to the list. Anyway, I best end this video here as the chief engineer is desperate to hit the 2-penny pushers. So you don't miss out on further videos and similar nonsense, please like, feel free to comment, definitely subscribe, and press that bell shaped thingy to be woken up at all hours for further content. But for now, that's your lot.